by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. Today I'm going to tell you a story about this guy named Duke. And it's one of those stories that you're going to be just shaking your head about. It's one of those stories. And the crux of this story is about self-hatred. Self-hatred. And a lot of us exhibit that in different ways, I believe. Joining gangs, committing crimes, hurting the ones we love, robbing, stealing, killing, doing all of those types of things. Not necessarily because, we're quote unquote, as they say, criminals, right? I think a lot of that comes from self-hatred and not understanding how to express that in a way that is positive and productive, right? So here's the thing. Duke was born to a white father and a black mother back in the 80s, somewhere around. It might have been earlier than that, right? I'm not exactly sure of his birthday. But his mother and father, they were in the streets. His father, he tried to, be one of those types of dudes that fit into the neighborhood that he moved in because his family moved into the hood when he was younger, right? So he tried to fit in with the wrong crowd, the wrong people in the neighborhood, right? The people that were doing things in the streets, right? They were feeling like they were being disadvantaged, so they decided that they wanted to sell some dope. Now, Duke's father decided, okay, I'm going to hang with these people as opposed to the people that's in these areas that work. To keep in mind, y'all, 70 to 80% of the people that live in the hood, they work. They might not be making enough money to live. They're living paycheck to paycheck, but they work. People in the hood get a bad rap because everybody thinking everybody in the hood is robbing, stealing, and killing. That's just not the case. The majority of the people that live in these areas that we call the hood or the inner cities, they working hard. But Duke decided he wanted to hang with the crowd that wanted to get it the fast way. A lot of us have done that. No judgment. It's just what it is. But here's the thing. See, Duke's father was hustling, getting money. But what he didn't understand was you don't get high off your own supply. Y'all heard that. Y'all heard if you looked at any gangster movies, Boys in the Hood, anything like that, that's what you're going to hear. Don't get high off your own supply. But see, Duke's father met this sister. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The beautiful brown gal. And he fell in love with her. But see, the problem was when he met her, both of them were inside of a crack house, smoking, getting high. And when he saw her, face smudged with dirt, hair all which ways looking a hot mess, it was just something about that look in her eyes, even though she was high as a kite, that pulled him. And he wanted to be near her. But see, he was under influence. So his expression of love wasn't the right way. He didn't know how to do it. He high, y'all. Think about it. He high. So his mind is all discombobulated, so he's thinking that he's loving her by feeding her this dope. And that's what he's doing. He's feeding it to her. And the more he feeds her, the more she wants to be around him. The more he and she and they want to be around each other, the more they decide, look, let's dip off. So now it's not about them meeting in the crack house to get high and spend time with each other because there ain't no privacy in the crack house. If you ever been in the crack house, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody in there now. They might have candles, but still, you can hear this going on in this corner and this going on in that corner. You know what I'm saying? You got the a lot of y'all might not know because they don't do that these days. But back in the day, you had them dark brown, them dark black trash bags up over the window, and you had the candles on all the tables, and it's just gruesome. It's just gruesome, the flickering of the lights off the walls. Everybody's in there. You can hear people shooting dope and having sex and having these small conversations about this, that, and the third. So they couldn't have any privacy in that environment. So they decided to dip off. Now keep in mind, he was still hustling a little bit, so he had a little money in his pocket even though he was getting high. So he got them one of those hotels that you can pay by the day. He wanted to keep her away from that. In his mind, it's like, if we can stay away from these people, we can get better. We can get clean. But every night they're getting high. His plan to get clean and live happily ever after is just not working out. But they loved each other. They loved each other, so they thought. They were expressing it in a way that they thought it was love anyway. And then, what normally happens if you're having sex is that she got pregnant. She got pregnant. And once she found out that she was pregnant, she decided to get herself clean because she didn't want her baby to be messed up like that. And that worked for her. That worked for her. She got clean. But see, Duke's father, he couldn't kick it. He couldn't kick it. He still loved her. She loved him. But the idea of him becoming a father wasn't enough to pull him away from that dope. And she tried and she tried and she tried to pull him away from that dope. But it didn't work. And the closer she got to the day that she was going to have this baby, to have Duke, the bigger she got, the more he started to resent her and started to think of her as somebody that was trying to stop him from doing what it was that he wanted to do. And that bothered him. The person that he had fallen in love with when she looked her worst had become a person that he started to resent because he felt like she was coming between him and what he really loved. And that was that dope. That was the dope. So the night that she had to deliver the baby, it was a snowstorm. It was a snowstorm. And she went into labor. You know, they were still staying in this hotel day by day. And he was still going out to get it, you know. And he had a little bitty car too, you know what I'm saying, doing it to get you from A to B. But when you hustling, that's all you need to be able to do to get from A to B. So when he ran out to get the car started, to get ready to take her to the hospital to deliver their son, the car wasn't working. So he flagged down a taxi and got the taxi driver to take him to the hospital. They get to the hospital, Duke is born. He's happy, he's excited, he's elated. But he can't enjoy the moment like he wants to because he's getting anxious now and he's looking around and the people that work at the hospital, you know, these nurses and doctors, they understand what that looks like. So they're looking at it and they're like, "Sir, is there anything wrong? Can we help you?" And they could tell. They knew. They've seen this before. They knew he was an addict. They knew. And she lay there in the bed holding Duke and looking up at him, and she felt ashamed of him. And he looked at her and he saw that look in her eyes and he knew what that was. He knew that she was ashamed of it. So he turned and he walked away. And he left her in the hospital. So at that time, you know, they didn't release you immediately like they do these days, right? So she stayed there that night. And she was hoping that he would come back the next day, you know. But he didn't. So she had to get a cab, not knowing if the hotel room was going to be available to her or not. She got a cab, and she left the hospital with her newborn son in the middle of the winter and went to the hotel room, and he was there. And while they were there, he was working on himself, and he crying and trying to tell her that he's going to quit and all this and that. But she's got to focus on Duke. She don't have time to lock in on him. She got to focus on this new baby that's totally dependent on her. But here he is, a grown man, and he's making her feel like she's got to choose him. He wants her to choose him. He wants her to choose him, but she don't choose him. She don't choose him. And he's getting upset. He's getting upset. So a day goes by, a week go by, a month go by, and Duke is getting stronger. He's a baby, but he's getting stronger. Now he's starting to raise his head up and look. You know how they do when they're 1 or 2 years old? They get to looking up around and they looking at you and they smiling. You don't know if they got gas or they need to eat. You don't know what's going on, but he's smiling and he's happy and all this and that, right? And his father's looking at him, and he feels that bond that's starting to build and that connection to him, and he wants to quit. He feels like that this is the chance. This is the time that I can quit. I can do this for my son. And he gets up and he finds all the drawers that he has in the drawer and he takes them and he throws them away. And she's watching him. Because when you're in one of them hotel rooms, right, you got the bedroom right there and then you got the restroom and all, and the door's open, you can see everything. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's walls between this and walls between that. So she sees him when he goes into the restroom and he pours all of the crack that he has and the pipe that he has, he breaks it and all of these things. And she looks at him and she said, "You can do it." And he turns and he looks at her and he cries and he walks over to the bed and he sits down on the bed beside her and he holds his son and he starts to shake. He starts to shake. It didn't take long before his body started saying, "Give me what I want. Give me that crack." But he resisted and he resisted and he's holding his son and he's rocking his son to sleep. So day after day, this struggle was on him and he's trying to kick it. He's up all night and it didn't matter because his son was up all night crying. So he's holding his son while he's fighting this addiction. He's rocking his son to sleep, walking the floor while the mother is laying in the bed trying to get some sleep. And it's just pure chaos. But after a couple of weeks, the jitters stopped. The runny nose stopped. The pain stopped. And now he's pacing the floor and he's holding his son. And he's looking at him and he's singing to him. He's telling him that he loves him and everything is going to be all right. And his son, Duke, looks up at him. You know how them babies do. Baby don't know what's going on. His son looks up at him. And he just laughs. And he plays with him. And she's laying in the bed, in the middle of the night. She'll wake up and she looks at him and she's seeing him. Now you got to keep in mind, when they met, they were both addicts. But now she sees him and she likes what she sees. This her man, this her baby daddy. And she starts to wonder, what did he see in her? Because when he saw her, she was a hot mess. Toe up, from the floor up, a hot mess. So he continues to get himself together and going out in the streets and hustling and making money and doing all the things that he needs to do. And now he decides that I can't keep doing this either. Can't keep doing this. So he goes to pay a visit to his parents. And, they don't even know that they're grandparents, But he pays his parents a visit and he tells them about what he's been doing and why he's been missing in action and all of the things that the changes that happened in his life and how he's overcome this addiction, and they're proud of him. And then he tells them that he has a son. That they're grandparents and they're happy. They want to see their child. They want to see the grandchild. So he tells them, look, I need you to love my grandchild, your grandchild, like you love me. And they said they would. They just want to see him. And then he tells them, he says that it's one more thing that I need to tell you. The mother's black. And his mother, she looks at him and she said, what did you just say? And he says, she's black. She's African American. Now, the father, he looks at him and he takes a couple of steps back and he puts his hand down on the kitchen table. He said, what did you just say? And he repeats it again and he tells him that she's black. And the mother, she says, I don't care. Bring my grandson over here and bring her too. But the father, he's like, no, I don't want them in this house. And see, he's a recovering addict, y'all. He ain't never had no help like in a clinic or anything like that. He kicked it on his own. But when he heard his father saying all these things, and he knew who his father was, that's why he tried to ease it in and let him know that, it's not what you think. He started to get anxious and he felt like he needed something. But he resisted. And he went back and he told the mother of his child, he said, look, I don't want to take you to meet my parents right now. She couldn't understand it because, see, he had never told her the true story about his family and what's really going on with him. So she just understood and said, okay, that's okay with me. We can do that. But one day they're going to have to see us. And she had thoughts in the back of her mind, maybe it's because she's black and their son is mixed. Maybe that's what it is. So he asked her about her parents, and she told him, and she said that, her parents wouldn't have a problem with it. And they went to her parents, and they introduced them, and everybody was happy and all this and that, and they loved on their grandson. And before you knew it, a year had gone by. And his father was sick. And his mother told him, I need you to come home and see your father to make him feel better. And he went by to visit his father. And when he got to his father's house, he knew that he had issues with his father, but he had to do this for his mother. And he went in and he sat down and he talked to his father, and his father assured him that everything was going to be okay and he was going to be fine, and that he was sorry for how he had acted and how he had treated him, and he wanted to meet his grandson, and he wanted to meet the mother of his grandson. So he told him, he said, I'll bring him by next week. And next week came pretty quick. But it came with a tragedy. See, somebody had broken into the house and robbed him. And in the process of that robbery, his mother was shot. She was shot and killed. And when he went by there and found out all the details, his heart turned cold as ice. Cold as ice. And the person that they had in custody was a young black man, just out trying to find money to buy drugs to get high. And it angered him so, and it angered his father so that he felt something towards his own son. When he looked at his son, he saw black men, and it made him angry. And he said to his son, before his son was even old enough to understand what that meant, he said, you're not going to grow up to be like the nigga that killed your grandma. Now, his son don't have no idea what's going on, right? He's a baby. But he's looking up at his dad, and his dad is talking to him. And he's smiling and laughing like babies do. But the words that his dad had just spoken over him set the course for the next few years of his life that would mold and shape him into a person that his grandmother, his own mother, would be ashamed to meet. So when he went back home, he told, out of anger and hurt, he told his wife, the mother of his son, that, well, they hadn't gotten married yet. Let me slow down. They were still boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. But he told her that they were going to move in with his pops. She thought they would be okay. They lived in a little nice, modest house. So she thought they would be fine. So they packed up and they moved in. She not knowing the words that he had just spoke over their son and how his father used to be, maybe still is. She agreed to it. Now you're going to have to tune into the next episode to get the rest of this right, because it's going to get better and the story is going to unfold in a way that you're going to be blown away. But this has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.